Welcome, my friend. It is Zion Builder, and we are entering Lent. Lent is a 40-day period, if you ignore Sundays, of preparation for Good Friday and Easter, when Jesus took away sin's power and death's sting. What's the point of preparation, one may ask, if this battle happened 2,000-ish years ago? Well, that was certainly the decisive victory, but there is still something of territorial disputes going on, and we need to be ready to win those. Well, like it or not, we have found ourselves on the front lines of a spiritual war, and while many of us will not lose our physical lives to the forces of evil, every day we fight battles whose outcomes can have effects into eternity. Will we go to hell for insulting our mean coworker? What about for a caustic, sarcastic comment? I don't know, but the truth is that our decision to seek harm rather than to turn the other cheek means that we aren't trying with all our heart to follow God's good advice of loving your neighbor as he loves you. And our little failures add up incredibly fast. We have to always be on our guard. We need to fight back, and we need to be well equipped to do it. So I offer you the advice that has been handed down since the original Christians themselves. We must take advantage of the spiritual trifecta of prayer, fasting, and giving alms. God can manifest His power easily and readily through them. These three simple things work wonders, acting as our greatest assets in fighting for the glory of God and for our own souls. Prayer is fundamental. Prayer is a person's intentional attempt to communicate with God. It often involves pre-written recitations, like the Our Father, but should always have a personal aspect to it. This communication is also a two-way process, so a good analogy, keeping with the war front we find ourselves on, is someone on communications duty, specifically the one receiving information from command. It's this person's job to explain, effectively and as fully as possible, the situation their squadron's in. Likewise, effective prayer will involve us giving as detailed account of our mistakes and the things we are grateful for. If the radio man squad is in trouble or has concerns, then this is the time to request help or clarification. Prayer, similarly, is when we have the chance to seek God's counsel as well as His aid, be it for physical or spiritual problems. And just like the radio man is expected to announce someone who's fallen or who's in trouble, we're not called to use prayer as simple me time with God. He wants us to pray for those people in our lives as well. Fasting, especially in our current cultural climate, is an underappreciated tool at our disposal. Fasting sharpens the will and clears the spiritual eye. By limiting, not necessarily eliminating, our intake of something enjoyable or even vital, such as food, we are forcing our bodies to conform to our wills, and we are forcing our wills to focus on something beyond its immediate desire. A lot of temptations come from the weakness of our flesh, as St. Paul loves to point out, so our will must be stronger than that. And by having our will focus on something greater than our immediate wants, we will prepare ourselves to fend off even mental and spiritual temptations. The military-esque example I'd like to use for fasting is basic training. Basic training is an incredibly difficult, but relatively brief amount of time. However, anyone who makes it through is much greater prepared for real combat. Fasting for the 40 days of Lent, or for even one day like Friday each week, can be grueling, but it's only for a short time, and afterwards we are far more prepared for temptations that our enemy will throw at us. However, unlike basic training where it's one and done, fasting is best done on a regular basis. But as an added bonus, fasting makes us even more aware of suffering, specifically the suffering of others. Which conveniently brings us to our next tool, almsgiving. In a similar way to fasting, almsgiving, which is just giving to the poor or to charities, denies us something that we want and forces our will to improve. This time, we're losing money, goods, or even time. But almsgiving is more than just that. It's also alleviating the suffering in other people. All these tools will help us when we embrace them. So forced fasting is just called starvation, and that can make spirituality seem pretty irrelevant. If our brothers or sisters have unmet needs, they will not be able to fight their own individual battles. Therefore, the almsgiving wartime analogy is the supply line. We are in an army fighting against forces that are, frankly, beyond our understanding, and we need everyone in tip-top shape. And this tip-top shape doesn't only involve people who are physically poor. Emotional alms can and should be given as well to those whose suffering is less obvious. We must share that concern worthy of brothers in arms. When a squad mate is down, someone will go pick them back up. Similarly, if some of us are suffering, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, we must come to them and lend our aid. We can't wait for them to crawl to us. or it may be too late. A final idea that I want to throw out there is that these are also weapons. While I talked about this trio as a spiritual shield, it's worth noting that, as long as we are talking about this as a war, these also have offensive capabilities. Prayer can always be directed for the conversion of sinners and the overturning of unjust situations. Fasting can always be offered up with the intent that God, who used the ultimate suffering for the ultimate good, used our small sacrifice to overcome the grip that addiction or pain might have on our loved ones. Alms can always be given to undo destructive mistakes and remove what control fear might have over people. I feel compelled, though, to note a very important difference that appears to be quite subtle. We are trying to broaden good's victory, not ensure evil's already inevitable defeat. We must always battle for loved ones, and not succumb to hatred of enemies. Hopefully, I've helped you feel more prepared for this, and not just Lent, but all the battles that we must face every day. The spiritual trifecta not only deepens our love of God, but He can use it to strengthen our wills and to guide them to follow His own perfect will. Through prayerful communication, training fasts, and alms-based support, we can, through God, overcome Satan and his minions and anything they try to throw at us. So don't worry, and just remember, never give up. And until next time, God bless, and good luck.